Hey there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman,
And I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
and today we're going to talk about a trip we recently took to Nevada, Missouri, where they still do pressed tin using the original 19th century dies, casts, the whole 9 yards. It was the closest I've ever personally been to actual time travel, and for me that's a really high bar.
Yes, it was pretty amazing.
So first we should probably explain that this house that we've moved into is a very, very large house, and yet it had a kitchen about the size of a thumbtack. And so I was getting very frustrated at this tiny little kitchen, and the story of kitchens throughout the ages is complicated. We don't have time to go into that today, but basically kitchens expanded and contracted depending on what people's attitude was towards technology and actually
And this kitchen actually was built also for use by servants and not by the actual house owners.
Right. So Gabriel has been building an addition onto it, and we're going to make the siding of the interior, cover the interior walls of that addition.
And
ceiling with pressed tin, which some of you may have seen in ceilings in especially diner sort of situations or some old stores.
Most old commercial buildings
had tin ceilings.
Yeah.
So that's probably where you've seen them before. You may not have recognized it as tin because it's usually painted. And if you saw the pictures of our old home in Port Townsend, we had put up pressed tin in the kitchen and in my den in that house too.
Yes.
So that's why we were going to this place, and I will let my dear husband take over and tell you a bit about it.
Yeah, so the factory was just incredible. This is a factory that's been in place since 1898. That's when the company was started. It's in the same building. It's using the same machinery, the same tools, and the same dies for actually pressing the tin panels. But the tools themselves, the workshop, was just incredible. So when we went into the building, it looked like a 19th century office. It had the wood railing that sort of kept you out in this public area, and then the actual office was behind that railing.
I didn't even see a computer in there,
No.
which is amazing for a modern office.
There were wooden roll-top desks that clearly had been there since they were new.
I wanted those desks.
Yes.
I told Gabriel, you distract them, I'll load up the truck with these desks, which was a total joke because these desks were huge.
Gigantic. They wouldn't even fit in our truck.
Right. But I wanted them.
But as we walked in there, one of the things that you instantly noticed about the building is that periodically there would be this incredible thump, and the whole building would shake a little bit. And when we went back into the workshop, we saw what was making that noise, which is these 4 gigantic Drophammers. So literally the way they press the tin is they have an extremely heavy weight that gets hauled up on extremely large ropes wrapped around water-cooled drums that are attached to a functioning overhead shaft power system, which then powers a lot of the other equipment in there through giant flat leather belts, exactly the way it would have been in 1898. And they haul those Drophammers all the way up on these huge reinforced towers, and then they just let them go, and it just drops down into the die and shapes the sheet metal that they have down there, whether that's steel or copper. And they have liquid tin is then what they plate it with. And that liquid tin is basically in a forge that's next to the Drophammers that's about 2 feet by 10 feet long, and just a trough of liquid tin with giant ladles to serve it out.
About roughly the same size as a big bathtub, but twice as deep.
And just incredible. But then also they had a shear, again, an original piece of tooling from 1898 that must have been 15 feet long, and that was powered by those overhead shaft drives. And basically you'd stomp on a treadle, and this whole shear would come down and cut an entire sheet of steel for you.
And this was all still in operation.
Yes.
This had been in continuous operation since the 19th century. And the owner actually told us that they managed to stay in operation through the Great Depression and they didn't fire anybody, which is amazing.
Yes.
But it really was a step back in time because everything was original. It was amazing. And it wasn't like a museum where you walk in and everything's polished to within an inch of its life. No, this was working stuff. So this is the way it would have looked back then.
Exactly. The catalogs they use are even the same print catalogs that they had in the very beginning of the 20th century. And these are still the catalogs from which we can order just about any of these designs or styles or sheets or whatever we're looking for. They do a huge range of different styles and different designs and
I know
types of panels.
We're starting to sound like a commercial. We're not paid in any way, shape, or form by these guys, but we just thought they were so cool.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And we definitely are going to put this on our walls and ceiling in the kitchen. We have a few other places in the house where we plan to put it, so we will plan to go back and pick up more. But just seeing a place that's been in operation that long, this is a version of living history.
Yeah.
It's the type we really enjoy.
And not in the sense of costumed play actors pretending to be something they're
It's not faked up. This is history that's actually survived and been continuously working.
Right.
For, 127 years.
Which we love.
Yes,
we absolutely love.
And the technology is incredibly simple, but also incredibly impressive when you see it in operation.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no computers involved at all.
No. And seeing that these original dies and the tooling that they've used for these panels is just incredible because some of it is pretty worn because it's been used for that long.
And they have a huge backstock of things that people ordered and then decided against, or they made a few extra
and they
for an
weren't
order
needed,
and they weren't needed.
And so there's these wonderful dusty piles on shelves of different sheet metal ornaments, different panels, different things, all of which I wanted to go through for just hours and try to find, something very interesting and special.
Right, but we didn't want to take that much of the owner's time because, whenever we were back there, he had to be back there too, just for safety reasons, because this equipment is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
Right.
Utterly huge, and it would be easy for someone who didn't know what they were doing to get into a lot of trouble.
Right. They also had a lot of open flames. They had, this is a classic old workshop, so their soldering irons literally were just a large hunk of copper with a wooden handle that you stuck into an open flame and heated up enough to melt the solder. Again, just very, very simple technology, but very effective, and they've done it the same way for a very long time.
Applied physics and mechanics in a very real, very concrete, very visible way, and so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got to see some of their more special things that they only make, very occasionally. These sort of pressed tin eagles, these pressed tin caryatids, which we are considering for the entry to our kitchen.
Caryatids, yes. I'm not letting
you
have an eagle in the kitchen.
No eagles in the kitchen.
The eagles were cool, but not in the kitchen.
I agree.
If you want a big bird in the kitchen, I'll pluck you a turkey.
Yes.
Okay. But it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, the other major scale tool they're still using in there was the floor scale.
Yeah.
That was original. So you'd literally sort of weigh up a load of this pressed tin to work out what you could put it on. Originally, that would have been on, horse-drawn delivery systems, so they'd have to work out, make sure that they weren't overloading the horses. Then it was the same sort of thing for trucks. And it's just amazing that they have the same piece of equipment that's been used probably just about every day since it was put into service, and it's still there, still working. Yeah,
and the owner was super sweet. He showed us the whole place, and he was very welcoming.
Even the upstairs, which is very unrestored, but really amazing to see the original offices.
The upstairs actually reminded me of this house before we started restoring it.
Lots of cracked plaster, and then lots of pressed tin ceilings, though.
And lots of stenciling.
So, original light bulbs in a couple cases.
Yeah.
We saw some very old light bulbs that were still hanging up there in fixtures.
but it was an amazing place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not a big town. I mean, it's the town name is Nevada, which is a little confusing because it's in the state of Missouri.
Yes. They
but-
seem to do that in the Midwest.
Yeah, a lot of names get recycled.
There's a Nevada, Iowa too, except they pronounce it Nevada.
Right. And there's a Gutenberg, Iowa, but they pronounce it Guttenberg.
Because they misspelled it.
Because they misspelled it. But anyhow, that's another story.
Yes.
Anyhow, it was a really cool experience, and we just wanted to share it with you. And if anyone's fixing up any houses or in the market for pressed tin, we definitely recommend those guys because it's an awesome factory and they're super, super nice people. So it's the WF Norman Corporation.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're fixing up a house or interested in pressed tin at all, I would recommend getting in touch with them. Again, we get no sponsorship from these folks. We just think they're cool.
Right.
So, thank you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up. And remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!